What up? What up? What up? What up? I actually saw somebody in one of the recent lives say that they started drinking Polar because of me. What an endorsement, Polar Seltzer. Why don't you sponsor the damn show already? That's what I need. I need a title sponsor. I need a presenting sponsor. I also need something to fill this wall space over here. Lots of things. I see Kevin jumped in. He'll get the inside joke right there. Regardless, on the eve of the 2025 WNBA season, I figured I would do a little bit of a program here before things actually tip off. I'm flying out to Indianapolis tomorrow. So clearly a big game on Saturday, the Fever and the Sky. But we also got some talking point ammunition right before the show started as well that I wasn't prepared for, but I will digest in real time and probably do a follow-up video on, to be quite honest with you. But the Fever in the Sky this weekend, Saturday, Stephanie White talked about keeping the Sky off the boards as her biggest concern. And I've talked about this matchup a little bit. I'm excited for it, not just from a Clark and Reese standpoint, which I'm sorry, people, I do think it's a rivalry. Clark Reese is a rivalry. I think Clark is the better player by far. I don't think it's particularly close, of course, but I think Angel Reese sometimes gets underrated because of how she's trashed at times, and I think she has tons of potential. But I absolutely think it's a rivalry. The league absolutely thinks it's a rivalry as well, or else they wouldn't schedule it so many times. And it wouldn't be talked about like this. It's like when people say there's no GOAT debate between Jordan and LeBron, but then they keep having the GOAT debate. I mean, you can have your opinion, and the two individuals can have their opinion, but they are linked. And there is a rivalry aspect to it. And it's a good thing. It's a bad thing when people use it to take pot shots, or they throw the race element in it, or any of the other garbage. But it's a good thing that the games have a little extra juice. Who the hell's mad at that? Why would anybody have any issues with that? So, let me know any questions you might want asked over the weekend. I will be at Gainbridge on Saturday. I will be in Indianapolis from Friday until Sunday. And I understand, you guys can say what you want in the comment section about it. Not, whether I was doing content or not. I mean, it is what it is. Sorry. This is maybe the single biggest individual moment in women's basketball history. Caitlin Clark is the single biggest figure in women's sports history. Angel Reese is the player most associated with her. Do I think Reese is better or comparable to Clark as a player? No, I don't. Do I think Reese is a damn good player? Yes, I do. And do I think their games have extra juice when they play each other? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. So do so does the commissioner of the league and the programmers. I'm not doing it to stir up any nonsense. Trust me, I want to stay as far away from the BS as possible. Right? Speaking of the Fever, though, and the attention around the Fever, they were on the cover of Sports Illustrated today. I knew about this for about a week or so, but this was maybe the quote that stood out the most. People want to come here and play with us and be a part of this organization. As far as the Fever go, free agency, easy layup for them. And it flies in the face of the narrative of nobody wanted to go to Indiana, or free AB, or Kelsey Mitchell's going to leave. People want to come here and play with us and be a part of this organization. Honestly, in our case, it just worked out pretty fast. Everyone wanted to come. Caitlin Clark on the Fever's offseason recruitment. Clark also was a part of that, apparently, sent texts and calls, but didn't need to. Didn't need to. But, it's the Fever show for a reason. They're on TV 41 out of 44 times, right? They're the biggest thing in women's sports, the biggest thing in the WNBA. And I think Kathy Engelbert was right when she said Caitlin Clark is the most popular athlete in America. She said that with Bill Simmons. So that is true. That be true. And, you know, there's the long and short of it. Nothing new there, nothing breaking from that. But something that did, I guess you could say, break before the show was the WNBA GM survey, which was a little interesting. I think some Clark fans are going to be upset about the way that shook out and some of the results from that survey, including Chelsea Gray being labeled as the best passer in the WNBA, 75% to Clark's 25%. I think Chelsea Gray makes great flashy passes. I think, I've said it before, Caitlin Clark has court vision up there with the best who have ever played the game, period, male, female. She's in the LeBron, Steve Nash, Jason Kidd, Magic Johnson kind of category for me. And her court vision is special. But that will be, a talking point. As will where she placed in the MVP odds for or not the odds, the percentage that she got for MVP. You see right here. I mean, this answer is pretty obvious, right? If you were starting a franchise today and could sign any player in the WNBA, who would it be? Caitlin Clark, the obvious answer. But who will win the 2025 MVP? She only got 8% of the votes. That flies in the face of the odds makers. Of course, the odds makers are also reacting to the public, and the money that comes in. But that's part of it. Yeah, that's definitely part of it. Then who's the best point guard? 50-50, Clark and Gray. Though Clark wins for best shooting guard, which is an interesting little wrinkle just because of, maybe I don't want to accuse like WNBA GMs of being biased or something like that. I don't think, they're professionals. So in some of these instances, they just disagree with what a lot of fans might think. Do some of them maybe share the same feelings about one player getting too much attention? I don't know. Perhaps that's possible. But I take that as interesting when they're looking at the shooting aspect of it versus the passing aspect, when I think both are equally great. But it's interesting, at least noteworthy, that the GMs have Clark favored more as a shooting guard than a point guard and passer. They did give Indiana the best overall offseason moves. And Sophie Cunningham, the underrated player acquisition, tied with Atkins and Carrington, three-way tie there. Most surprising move being Bonner, Fever most improved. So it's not like the Fever are being slighted. One other bit of interesting news in here, or a nugget, is that the GMs don't see Paige Beckers as the best rookie from her class in 5 years. Dominique Malunga getting the nod there. So that stood out a little bit to me on the first glance and the first reading of this thing. Malunga, favored by the GMs. The MVP thing is interesting because, if I'm picking Clark to be MVP. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like unaware that I'm a fan of Clark's game. and obviously I talk about her quite a bit, but I honestly believe she's going to prove to be the best player and the most valuable player this year. I'm surprised that only 8% of the GMs, quite frankly, had it that way. Does surprise me a bit. Then there's conversations like this too, which don't surprise me all that much.
In the sports betting world, Caitlin Clark is a front runner for MVP, which I was surprised about. I mean, my thing is last season she was number 7 in total points.
Okay.
She averaged about 19. Asia Wilson averaged 26.
Right.
That's a big difference.
Yeah, I don't know
You know
what
what I mean?
clientele's like setting these odds, but I don't think she could be in the running. I mean, maybe most improved, which is crazy to say, but I mean, I think Caitlin Clark has another level that she hasn't reached yet, and her having the ability to rest during this off season and build muscle that like people might twist my words and be like, most improved, what are you talking about? But I just think she has an untapped level that she could really take that step up to be like Asia Wilson or Stewie, like one of those big names. So,
and I do think having that muscle is really important in the WNBA because these women are stronger, faster, everything. And I saw the pictures of her. I was like,
Yeah, dude.
she's been putting in that work in the offseason.
She definitely put the work in. One of those bigger names in the WNBA, I think basically she's trying to say a legend of the game or people who are more accomplished, which would be fair. But I mean, Clark is the biggest name in the WNBA. And sometimes I feel like people don't accept what happened last year. I ain't even saying anybody on that panel particularly, just a clip I saw. But I mean, it does feed into what I'm saying, which is that like Clark was 4th in MVP last year and 1st team all WNBA last year. Like she was already there. Doesn't need to take a huge leap in improvement in all those things. She was already there. Like that happened. It wasn't, nobody made that up. That's the thing that I wind up scratching my head about the most, I guess, in all this, as the season is finally here. I mean, look, this is the kind of stuff I think can be used as motivation. I mean, Caitlin Clark set the WNBA assist record last year. Not the best passer. Or, Caitlin Clark is going to score more this year. There's no question. I mean, in that video I played, it's like Asia Wilson scored a few more points. Okay. Clark's average likely to go up, and she's also a point guard who's dropping assists. Now, Asia, don't get me wrong, deserved. There's nothing wrong with Asia Wilson winning MVP last year. But, it ain't Asia here and CC here to me. Nafisa Collier is the favorite in that survey to win the MVP, which I also don't have a problem with that result. Fee's a beast. The Lynx are picked to win the title there, too. But I do think it's the kind of chip on your shoulder sort of deal that Clark could use going into the year. I'll get to the comments in a minute. Please remember to always like and subscribe to the channel, of course. Give me your thoughts, feedback, comments, all that stuff. And member chats and super chats will go first, as always, when I do indeed get to the comments section. But that's coming up in a minute. Then there's just like, the general WNBA preview. Yeah, we're in all the cut time, right? Like all these cuts are happening, and that's been the biggest news right now are the cuts that they're being made, the roster cuts. And Lucy Olson made the Mystics. Deja Kelly did not make the Aces. 2 bits of surprising pieces of news, I guess you could say. Ari McDonald waived by the Sparks last night. The Valkyries with their moves. And there's a lot of interest around the Valkyries because the inaugural season, but they cut Caitlin Chen and Letitia Amihir. Catching some fans off guard. But yeah, I think should be a good year. And it starts on Saturday. Look, I was getting tired of, it's so funny because it's one of those so close but so far away situations, if you know what I'm saying. Because we're finally here. The season is finally starting, but it felt like everything that needs to be said had been said. Right? Like there's nothing new to say. No new angles, no new approaches. All the topics from this long off season started to be repeats at a certain point. So fresh stuff. And but by the time you're on the season, you've already exhausted all the talking points. And then after that, the season starts and you get the fresh stories, and you could see it when the Fever came into training camp. You could see it with the Brazil game and all that stuff. So let me know any of your thoughts, any of your questions. Member chats and super chats will go first. Let's get into those right now on this little lunchtime edition, because again, I got children to tend to later, and then I got a trip to take tomorrow, but wanted to get one of these suckers in before all of that. Stern 12, aka Chris, did Swoops lose her podcast gig on, I think you meant to say Odyssey, which is AUDACY? She's not a part of one of the podcasts she was a part of. I don't know what happened. You can read into it what you will. I cannot tell you, I no matter who it's involving, I'm not going to pretend to know things I don't know. Is it possible? Sure. Is it possible the contract ran out? Is it possible she wanted too much money? There's always a variety of possibilities. The only thing I know for sure is that she is no longer a part of a podcast that she was a part of, for whatever the reason is. Could be she didn't want to do it anymore. There's a variety of reasons. I don't think she's on the broadcast team she was on last year either. Take it for what it's worth. Brandon Sleep. What's up, everybody? What's up, Robin? Thank you for the chat just to say what's up. That's always kind when people are willing to spend a few bucks to say hello. I will not, I will not rebuff or rebuke that, of course. Kevin Zwicker. While CC is no Brunson, this feels like the biggest opening game in W history. Also, shout out to Salma Hayek for her SI cover. She is the LeBron of beauties. Look, I mean, she's been doing it. I remember from dusk till dawn, bro. Like, that was like, whoa, who that be? Right? That was her, right? And now she's how old? And still looks great. So congratulations to Salma Hayek. Big week for SI covers between the swim coming out this week and the Fever being on the cover of Sports Illustrated today. Member chats, super chats go first. Please like, subscribe, all of the above. I'm looking for some of the member chats before I get to the regular peons. I like, we got Peggy in the chat just saying hello to a bunch of people, but here we go. I think all the games between the Fever and Sky are going to be close. Yeah, I mean, look, and hopefully this is a good perk for members to get your chats read. But regardless, I think the Sky are much improved. I do believe that. I do believe the Sky will be a far better team this year than they were a year ago. I think Courtney Vandersloot will really help them as far as getting them on track, keeping them in rhythm, sort of commanding the offense in the show, right? I think that's definitely a big pickup for them. Atkins will help them when it comes to scoring. They got a new coach, and Cardoso and Reese, we'll see. That's a work in progress how they play together, but both obviously very talented. And Reese, I like the fact she's looking to make plays happen in transition. They're putting an emphasis on her passing. Cardoso, I think they'll run a lot of screen and roll with her and Sloot. And then you add, some of the other additions they made. We'll see how Haley Van Lith does in the league. But I think they're going to be much improved. And it could be close because physically they can, Stephanie Way already said, how do we keep them off the boards? That was her comment at practice yesterday. Now, when it comes to the Fever, I don't know if the Sky have the firepower to keep up with the Fever. And I don't know if they have the transition defense to keep up with the Fever when the Fever decide to push it and get out and go. That's where I think they can really hurt the Sky. But yeah, I think the games, some of them will be tight. Maybe this weekend will be tight. I don't think that, the Fever are going to just run them off the floor. But that's. I just got my official credential email. Peggy, you're awesome. Thank you. Super sticker from Peggy, one of the best participants here. Easy to curry favor in that regard, but thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. And I appreciate that the season is back and getting ready to rock and roll. Very generous sticker from Peggy. So I'm going to leave it up there for a minute while I look for any other member chats before I move on to some of the other comments. That GM survey is pretty interesting. I'm excited too, man. Gonna go. I got a new phone yesterday and everything. I mean, it's the same phone, but the upgraded version, just because, when you're out doing what I do and you're on the go, there's no better device for gathering content, and who knows what might come up. I'm not saying I'm going to come away from this with any, earth-shattering news or content, but you never know. And I wanted to make sure I had the latest up-to-date equipment in the event of that. Now, just fingers crossed for my flight and all that. I'm flying in and out of the dreaded Newark airport. I'm not so worried about my flight out. And worst case scenario, I'll rent a car and drive there. I'll get there. But because there were so many limited flights in and out, and also I'm so much closer to Newark. I also know how the media works, and while I'm sure it's bad, I don't think it's as hair on fire bad necessarily as the media might make it out to be. But if you don't hear from me next week, you'll know what happened. I should need a joke about that. All right. Thank you for the member chats, the super chats. Get those likes and subscribes in. I'll hang out for as long as I can here on this Thursday afternoon. And we are finally almost there. We are almost there. Crank that Sports Illustrated cover. Mick Nebulous says, shut up, join Athlon, I think is what that's supposed to mean. Yo, Athlon be writing some clickbaity headlines, bro. Just because I said that Clark and Reese's rivalry does not mean I'm clickbaiting or trying to stir up drama. I'm sorry. It's like a sports rivalry. It's a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a race war. I'm not stirring up anything extra other than I think there's a little extra attention when they play each other. Oh, and Peggy gets her comment right back up for being a member and for the super sticker. The Fever will broadcast 18 games at fever.com over 4 states. I could take you behind the scenes on how the whole Athlon thing came to be, by the way. I could tell you how that. But they wrote that one of their headlines the other day was like, WNBA player loses job right after playing Caitlin Clark. And it's like, they'll just do anything to get Caitlin Clark in the title of the headline. And trust me, I know how the headline writing business goes too. And there's, it's a delicate art of how do you make people want to click on it without overselling it. And it's a struggle I deal with on a day-to-day basis, to be quite frank with you. But it's, I do my best not to be that. Do my best not to be that. Where are we at here? Jay Alam says it's not a rivalry. Stop the nonsense. I just do think it is. I don't know what. I'm not even trying to be takey or get reactions. I just a rivalry. They wouldn't schedule them so many times if they didn't think the commissioner of the league wouldn't put it in rivalry week and call it a rivalry. And it wouldn't stir up all this drama and conversation. It wouldn't stir up these reactions if it wasn't a rivalry of sorts. Now, it doesn't mean it needs to be promoted at the expense of everything else or shoved down everybody's throat or forced into conversations where it doesn't belong. But I don't think it's unfair to say there's always interest when Caitlin Clark and the Fever play. Their preseason game did more views than game 1 of the WNBA finals, right? Like, just facts. But of the games last year, the Sky and Fever games did the best. For the most part. It's okay. Nothing wrong with it. Susan Tyndall, Reese has fire, so does CC. Going to be a good game. Storm UK says, like, MJ versus Rodman. Again, I'm not saying, when I say rivalry, I'm not saying I think they're on the same level or equals as players. It's not the same thing. Not the same thing. By the way, Dennis Rodman was a hell of a player. Twofold says Sophie not playing is a little bummer. That's not been confirmed. Unless that happened while I was live. That's definitely not confirmed. Definitely not confirmed. She hasn't been practicing. Well, to this point, you trust the odd makers more than GMs. Bookies have actual money on the line. GMs are just talking. The bookies make more money if Caitlin Clark doesn't win the MVP, you realize, right? You know, I'm always going to be honest in how I see it. So I get your point of view there, but the odds are also set on the public money. And more public money is in on Caitlin Clark than anybody else for MVP. So for the bookmakers to make money, they need Caitlin Clark to not win MVP. That's how they're going to win money. So that point doesn't exactly make sense. John Brady says GMs really favor size. Look, size is important in basketball. There's no question. No question about that. But Clark is a big guard too. And I don't know how many different ways to put it. I just think Clark is different. She's special. There's never been anybody like her. And I'm not like glazing or anything like that. I just think that's the truth. And I think that will show itself this year, but who knows? Who knows? Member chats and super chats go first. Like I said, they just ignore the 337 assists. You can't make this crap up. Cindy says CC will use this as motivation. My top 8 in the league, in the WNBA you're talking about? I would say definitely the Fever. Definitely the Lynx. Definitely the Liberty. I mean, you have to definitely the Aces. When we're talking top 8, I'd have to think about order a little bit, but those 4 are definitely in. I think I would have the Storm in there. I think I would have the Dream in there. Sky. Sparks. Those are my top 8. The Mercury, we'll see how they gel, but something has me wary of the Mercury. Foot speed on the in one regard. Those would be that's my prediction for the top 8. Tula plays says I'm a married man. Stop. What did I say? Oh, that Salma Hayek is attractive. I think I can get away with that. I'm pretty sure that's okay. It's like, you could say objectively true things. Where are we at? Peggy's worried about the fever getting around Cardoso. Look, Cardoso's big girl, and I think they're going to try to use her more. But what I would try to do is run her if I'm Indiana. That's why you got to get the rebounds, though. That's why you got to get the rebounds. Which player outside of Clark do you think the Fever would miss the most if they got injured? Yikes. I hate even thinking about injuries. I mean, she might be hurt right now. It might be Cunningham because of the secondary ball handling ability and lack of, some of the other, like Bonner can play the four, so can Howard. You know what I mean? If Boston were to go down, Turner can start and fill in at center or something. I don't know if they have anybody that does the variety of things that Sophie's going to do for them. So it's not that she's the second best player, because obviously Kelsey is unbelievable. But I think for the specific things that she is able to do, that might be, might be the answer. Kelsey Mitchell could also just be the answer, because Kelsey's the, second best player, or certainly the second best offensive player. Get your likes and subscribes in. Remember, member chats, super chats go first. A lot of people in the chat, as always appreciate that. I'll try to get you guys, obviously, some videos from my trip remotely. But we will get to that. Peggy says 80% of Kelsey Mitchell's points were from CC, from assists from CC. Coach White said in the article she wants to keep that up. Yeah, I mean, look, Caitlin is, having the ball in her hands, but I think one of the interesting things is the wrinkle of taking her off the ball, and I could see that paying off. Only members should like the video because that is who Robin cares about. I mean, I'm sorry, Eric, if I'm showing some favoritism towards the members. That's called the perk of being a member. They are, I am not only caring about members, but they do get priority. It's like when you pay for the fast pass at an amusement park or something. But the off the ball aspect of CC is I figured you might be kidding, Eric. The off the ball aspect of CC is interesting because I saw the stats in the ESPN piece yesterday, and her shooting numbers were much more efficient off the ball, which isn't surprising because, that's when you're getting open catch and shoot looks. But there you have it. It was like 39% to 32%. I just think that might be the biggest difference in Clark this year, though, is her shooting percentages. I could see them really going up this year. She looks more comfortable on her shot. She looks more balanced, stronger, all those things. And that's, I think, the biggest jump she can take from year 1 to year 2 is just that 3-point shot, which she's so known for, but hitting that at a higher clip. Amy K says her shooting is more efficient in general in the preseason. Probably the rest was good for her. Yeah. That and the training and all those things. All right. Trying to work my way back through the chat to see if I missed anything noteworthy. Thank you all for being here. And as always, for hanging out with me. Like I said, I wanted to make sure I got one live in this week before heading out, and I will get you guys coverage from there too, whether it be my hotel room and obviously around the team and everything. But I leave tomorrow for Indy, so wasn't going to be able to do one of these tomorrow. It's always hard. I need, who was the one that tells me I need a moderator all the time? But Fever versus everyone, says Mac. Look, I mean, that's part of the Fever asking for that too, though. They're definitely asking for that with their whole marketing campaign and everything. Chris Van Cleve says Clark versus Reese is not a typical rivalry. It's a fan rivalry more than anything. And that's okay. Yeah, I mean, however you want to define it, there's extra juice, there's extra talking points, there's extra attention when they play. It's okay. I thought, like, there was a point last year where Angel Reese was being forced into the Rookie of the Year conversation. And I think the whole thing went too far, or people tried to make it into a race thing, or, associate your opinion based on that, which is just garbage and nonsense. And all that I can do without. But a good old-fashioned sports rivalry, what's the problem? And I know they'll both say, it's not. But they're also not in charge of that. Or Clark at least says it's not. Angel skipped that question the other day. Somebody asked her about the whole, what was it? Like, they're watching because of Me Too. And she said, next question, which I get. I get why she didn't want to answer that. And it felt like an old comment to bring up. But it is something she also said. So, it wasn't totally out of line. She said it. I don't know what the impetus for the question was yet whenever that happened or whenever that was asked earlier this week. All right, I think I got to a bunch of them. I'm just going to go up to date here because it's not going to serve me well to be scrolling through old comments while I'm trying to talk. Get your chats in, comments in, likes, subscribes in. PP says, Robin, the attendance thing is not an old comment because Angel's mom revived it with a toxic tweet recently. Yeah, I saw it. I don't know. I just scrolled. Look, I get it. I get why it got covered when we covered it, but I just don't care. To be quite frank, like, her mom can say what she wants to say. So what? I mean, look, there's just like, when it comes to the attention and all that, it's also like, that's a repeat. Caitlin Clark is overwhelmingly wildly popular. So are the Fever because of Caitlin Clark. That's just a fact. More so than anybody by a mile. It's not even close. It's not worth discussing. And it's just not worth bragging about anymore either. It's a truth of the universe. And I think, what did Angel's mom say? She has a championship or something. And I know that's what we go back to. It's just like, all right, let's play some basketball. Let's play some basketball. Peggy says, what did everyone think of Asia's New York Times article? Kind of crazy. Asia's a great player. Great player. It's another repeat topic, but I really don't care for what she has to say a lot of times. Not like I don't care about what she has to say. I don't care for what she has to say a lot of times. And again, it was the race thing in there. And I don't think the disparity in, like, let's say Caitlin Clark's and Asia Wilson's popularity is really at all based on race, right? Really, like, even close to it all. Could there be a element of it? Sure, I suppose. But Asia's a big. She's not as exciting to watch as Clark. She didn't capture the imagination of fans at the college level into the pros like Clark. There had been plenty of white girls before who were not as popular as Clark. And there have been plenty of black athletes before who are super wildly popular in other sports. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Junior, I stumbled on a live yesterday, and as soon as I click in it, the guy says, take Caitlin Clark's three-point shooting ability away, and what would she be? I laughed and clicked out. Yeah, I mean, look, I've never seen anybody break people's brains the way Caitlin Clark has either. That's another underrated element of this whole deal. She just really has broken people's brains. It's kind of astounding. Kind of astounding. Like, subscribes, everything else. All right, y'all. That's probably about it for today's program. Give you another 90 seconds, 2 minutes or so to get any final comments, words in. But I wanted to touch base before the my trip. Yeah, I told him I would frame that. And then I wound up or put it on my wall. I wound up doing it. It was a fun back and forth with Katie at the time. Fun back and forth. We had a DM exchange after that too. Like a week or so after that. We ended it on good terms. We definitely ended on good terms. Lindy says, I want this to be a competitive season. I want to see great basketball. Look, me too. And I want to make it much more about basketball. And I try my best. I mean, I touch on it when I think it's worthy. I just try not to force that stuff. Look, I could get more clicks and views if I just sensationalize everything and it took any tweet and that somebody said about race or something and made it into a think piece. I could do it if I wanted to, but that's not me. And I try not to be disingenuous. My thoughts on the Fever's pace this season. I think they're going to be quick and run fast. I think it's going to be plan A. But I think they have more variety in their half-court offense now, more ways to score. And that's where you'll see Caitlin Clark get off the ball more to get her easier shots. But I don't think you're going to see a slow-paced team by any means or a methodical team by any means. Definitely not. All right, y'all. That will do it for me here today. Enjoy the start of the WNBA season. Enjoy the games tomorrow night. Enjoy, obviously, the Fever and Sky game. Katie, I don't know if Clark will get a better. Hopefully, she gets a little bit of a better whistle this season. She's got to put the onus on the officials by taking it to the rack to do that. Thank you, Charles19. Appreciate it, y'all. But have a good weekend. Check out the games. Keep keeping up with the channel. And I will keep you up to date with everything going on from out in Indianapolis. Keep up with the latest Indiana Fever on SI, Women's Fast Break on SI as well. And let me know any suggestions, comments, you have anything you want to hear about. But the next time I talk to you, well, I'll probably do a video today, to be honest. But beyond that, the next time I talk to all you here, maybe it will probably be back in here next week. But my spirit and sentiment meant to be that I will be talking to you from Indianapolis or somewhere in one shape or form. Yeah, Rosalina and I will get another show up. Definitely. Don't worry about it. We talk all the time too. So that's I'll let her know that the request was put in. Till the next one, y'all. Yeet.